All right, South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg is taking fire from the Bernie Sanders campaign after Sanders' campaign co-chair, Congressman Ro Khanna, called out Buttigieg for comparing the Vermont senator's appeal with Trump's. Last night, Buttigieg attempted to clear things up.
Just so there's no confusion about this, I regard Senator Sanders and President Trump as stupendously different in very, very many respects. But I do think it's worth noting that there was so much anti-establishment energy, and that can find its way in a number of very different political directions. But when you think about the number of voters, certainly where I come from, who basically narrowed down their choices in the last election, either to Bernie Sanders or to Donald Trump, it tells you that some of the most important things on voters' minds aren't just, are you close to me on a left-right political spectrum, but are you really going to profoundly change the system that we're living in? And I think the president, even though it was all, I don't know what I can say on cable, it was all untrue.
You can say pretty much anything on cable.
Okay, great. Well, it was bull, right?
As we told you last block, Mayor Pete has seen a big jump in the polls among potential Democratic candidates. NBC News has learned that the mayor's sudden surge in popularity has caught his rivals off guard and has them scrambling to dig up dirt on him. Joining us at the table here.
Well, hold one second. Hold on one second, Josh.
Yeah,
We're going to get you for a second. I cannot let the rank hypocrisy that I just saw go by unanswered. Willie Geist, Bernie Sanders. His team is acting shocked that there was a comparison to the voters between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. There was a story, I think, in Politico last week about how Bernie Sanders is going after Trump voters. There were New York Times stories last year, or a couple years ago, talking about the Trump voters who would have voted for Bernie Sanders if he got through the primary. We've talked about it all the time, that they're both insurgent candidates who attracted across the Midwest a lot of the same voters. There's no surprise here, and I mean the Sanders team needs to be a little less desperate to throw mud on Mayor Pete, because they've been saying they're going to do that themselves.
It's not exactly a novel point either. People have been saying it since the last campaign, since 2016, that their appeal, although their policy ideas are completely different, their appeal is the same, and that they're kind of outsiders. And Josh, it's funny because Pete Buttigieg, when he was in high school, won an essay contest praising Bernie Sanders, so they know better than what they're doing right now. This is not to say, of course, that Mayor Pete's not above dirt in a presidential campaign or above criticism, but it does point to the fact that he has caught the attention of this field, having come out of nowhere.
That's right. With all of the nationally known Democrats who it was really obvious were going to run for years, everybody had their opposition research basically in the can, ready to go. Everyone knew what they were going to throw at Elizabeth Warren. Everyone knew what they were going to throw at Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. But nobody really had reason to be doing a lot of deep digging on the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. Well, now they do, and we just talked about these polls. Now he's clearly a threat for those who are seeking the nomination and then the presidency.
But so, it seems, Casey, doesn't it seem counterproductive to try and sully up Mayor Pete? I mean, haven't we seen this not work before? It's not going to work.
I mean, you may be right, but I don't see a way around it for Mayor Pete. I mean, this is how it works. This is what happens when you join the big leagues. And it's a sign, to your point, that, you know, he really has landed himself in the top tier. And it's kind of funny that everybody's unprepared for him. There was a little bit of that with Barack Obama, too, although he obviously had given that speech at the DNC that got the attention. So my question for you is, I mean, what are they going after? I mean, where are the weak spots?
Well, they've found what they think are a few vulnerable areas. Some involve his record as mayor, some controversial decisions he took as far as demolishing abandoned houses in South Bend and also demoting the city's black police chief. They also think that he's ripe for some guilt by association attacks over his work at McKinsey, obviously a firm that's very unpopular among the Democratic base because of some of its corporate practices. And beyond that, they're still looking through everything he's ever said, written at Harvard as a Rhodes Scholar, what he did in the military, what else is there out there that might be
Gene,
useful?
I'm skeptical just because I feel like these efforts are going to look really forced and too late, like the Democrats being behind the 8 ball again.
Well, you know, he is the story of the campaign so far, right? We kind of expected Bernie Sanders to do well because of how well he did the last time. People didn't expect Mayor Pete to come out of nowhere. He is Mayor Pete. He's not Saint Pete. So, you know, go and this sort of vetting, you know, Oppo research is in a sense vetting, and so if you know, if he were to get the nomination, surely Republicans would go after him in this way. So I don't, you know, I assume he's ready for this. I hope he's ready for this, and we'll see what they come up with. So far, they haven't really laid a glove on him, and if all they have is that he tore down some abandoned houses and demoted a police chief, I don't think that's gonna stop his momentum or slow it. But we'll see how he handles the criticism and how he handles the Oppo, and that's part of the process.
Little prediction here, it'll fall as flat as trying to make Joe Biden look like a pervert. Just doesn't work. Josh Letterman, thank you very much for your reporting. Coming up, we've got several must-read opinion pages, including Gene's new piece entitled "Democrats Must Seize and Define This Moment, Otherwise Trump Will." Morning Joe is back in a moment.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.